almost every category in this game. So I personally like to do standard sprite, but that's just because I have not practiced on other sprites yet. So not like him, he probably just feels to the original.
Yeah, that's a great point. And as we're going to get going, it's also good to mention, of course, that JTB also has a sub 140 in no major glitches. So both of these runners pretty experienced in both the main speedrun of this game and also the randomizer itself. But here we go with a heart container starting us off in Link's house. And a map check.
And talk about that vanilla right away. We have vanilla green pendant in Eastern.
I'm trying to remember if the red pendant is vanilla for desert, but that's a little bit beyond my recollection of minutia of the vanilla game.
Yeah, you know what? I do not remember. Haven't paid attention to that in a while, but JTB is first to the basement. We'll see with Uncle Giz, and we get the Cane of Samaria. I like having this to start off. There's multiple ways you can utilize this cane. It's like having 3 items in one.
Yeah, and we're going to see a whole lot of the kind of main use of it here, just shooting the guards with the little power pellet things that it shoots at when you blow up a cane block. But of course, there's also the option to throw a cane block. We'll see if either of our runners chooses to do that. Check's actually getting 2 red rupee drops from these 2 guards, so that's a pretty nice thing to find in this prize pack, and he might even opt to just like intentionally farm some of these.
Oh yeah, I always like to say if I can leave escape with about 100 rubies just to qualify for a bottle vendor and have a little extra, it's definitely one of the best things to go through.
All right, we're moving on to the back of the escape, the actual part where Zelda is hidden in the dungeon. And Chex has stopped a few times along the way to kill a few extra guards. JTB is being a little more aggressive on that. He's not going to spend as much time on that. They're both, of course, looking for bombs. They want to make sure that they have at least one available for the back of the escape, but no luck yet on either side.
Actually, Chex did just pick up a bomb.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And JTB just got 4, so it'll be fine.
Perfect. At the exact moment I looked away from each of their screens, they picked up a bomb. So that's perfect. But now they'll both be at least comfortable in that regard. Chex is even going to skip potentially picking up that pot to kill that guard, and he'll probably just say 1 is enough. He can worry about more later. Oh, hello.
Yeah, Moonpaw right away, and excellent use of that cane strat there by JTB. Killed that blue guard with 3 hits really quickly.
Yeah, and he's having a slightly better time with this cane escape than Chex is, but not that crazy style. It's not like a huge amount of time, but you know, there's a little bit's going to add up, and you certainly don't want to start too far behind. Fortunately, the escape is only about 6 minutes, so it's not going to make a massive difference in this race.
Absolutely, and JTB is conserving his magic here and deciding to go pot strats against the ball and chain guard.
Yeah, there's the little cane, power puff laser things. They only deal like 1 damage, fighter sword equivalent, so it takes 8 shots of that to actually kill him with those. So not a fun time. Much easier to just take him out with the 2 pots. I think faster actually as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And you don't want to sit there and wait for him to hit the block 5 times before it disappears and set another one. So getting those 2 pots is definitely quicker. But otherwise, they did find that 20 rupees. So now Chexhuman is at 60 opposed to 40 with JTB. So getting up there in the rupee count before the end of escape.
Yeah, and with the red rupees in the prize pack, I don't think it's going to make a too huge deal either way. But we'll see how that goes. A small difference could result in, Chex being at 510 and JTB being at 490 as they try to go to Zora or something. Most likely not, though. That's a pretty edge case. The only other item we found so far is a bottle back in the sewers near Uncle with a bee in it. So yay for that. At least they can check the sick kid in Kakariko.
Yeah, and that's one of those trolley locations. If you just forget when you found that bottle, that you might forget to get sick kid. So getting it in escape is definitely well placed, so that you can just route it in when you go through.
That's for sure. JTB is heading into the other back of the escape, I guess, to head down the path to Sanctuary, and he is going to go ahead and We'll see whether he opts to kill any of these ropes. Nope, he says they're all lined up perfectly. I'm just going to go right past him. He will take out a couple of these, though. Another heart container, very nice. And then Chex finally getting that 4 bomb drop, so now he's good on bombs. He's got 5, and that will be very, very nice for him going forward.
Absolutely. I think that puts him at the exact number he needs going through Kakariko, so.
A little bit of trolling for JTB by the key rat, everyone's least favorite rat in the game, but he does make it through. So you're gonna chuck a bomb at this wall, take a walk through, and what will we find in these 3 chests? It is a boomerang, a map, and 10 arrows. So, whew.
So all in all, Escape really not having a lot of progression. Hopefully Kakariko will have a few more items for him. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, the Moon Pearl being a very important item that does absolutely nothing for them until they get several others. So it's great to have. You definitely want it, and at the same time, you're like, come on, can you give me something that actually gets me somewhere?
And 300 rupees. So we're going to be close to that 20 rupee difference as you were saying earlier.
Yeah, that pretty much wipes away most early game money concerns. There's still, of course, Zora is still available as a thing to be worried about, but as it happens, the money actually does not affect whether or not Zora is considered to be logic. So we'll see whether or not either runner, ends up needing to possibly farm. But for now, JTB is skipping that lumberjack check. This again, pretty common play among higher end runners. They're looking to shave a few seconds off. So he says, I don't have boots yet. I'm going to skip that for now.
Absolutely, and opting to check the tree pull here, but not doing the tree pull. They do have plenty of rupees. They have bombs to get through Kakariko, so that knowledge is not as versatile as when you would normally go and check it for.
Yeah, and it really depends too on what's there as far as whether it possibly even screws up your routing a little bit. Now, Chex will go ahead and check this, so this sets him a little bit behind JTB for now, but later on, presumably if he gets boots, JTB will need to go back and check this, but it's just a big 20, so he's never going to need it.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, I don't mind this by checks. I like to have information myself. I tend to go up here, though lately I've been skipping it. But early wise, knowledge in randomizer is definitely something to that helps out tremendously. So
I agree very strongly with that. And there's lots of kinds of knowledge which we'll see both runners get to demonstrate today. And one of those kinds of knowledge is trying to be able to follow the logic of the seed, that is what it expects you to be able to do at any given time, and therefore where the items can actually be. But meanwhile, as JTB is checking this Thieves' Hut, there is a lot of money in here, practically in a vanilla sort of distribution. But now there's no concerns whatsoever about money. And the back chest contains a hook shot, so there's something nice at least.
yeah, absolutely. Finding early a hook shot definitely adds to the mobility. They can use it to get early, overworld routing. We have early mountain check if they decide to dock walk up to the mountain once they find gloves, obviously, but definitely nice to find. Plus, mini Moldorms die from that easily.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's the nicest immediate implication. A lot of hearts already showing up for both of these runners too, as JTB is checking out the well. Chex is falling into the Thieves' Hut. Another bottle with another bee, and still more heart pieces, as well as some other assorted junk. So, man, the items are coming pretty slow here, as we checked a lot of chests, and we've only really gotten... Oh, come on, vendor.
Wow, we think Zora is the one that gives a life lesson, but the vendor gives you 1 rupee. That's literally 1% of what it costs.
Oof, what a tough purchase there. Gonna regret that a little bit, but on the bright side, he recovers 20 of those rupees from the chicken house. He is now out of bombs, JTB is, so he will need to pick up a few more. He must have flubbed one somewhere along the way. No, he only got 4, right?
Yeah, he only had 4. And
okay, yeah, that makes sense then.
And Sick Kid's just toying with them. Says, "Here, you can carry more bombs, but I don't have any for you."
Perfect. Well, he'll check out the back of the tavern here, try to see if it has bombs, but it doesn't. It's a shovel instead, which he'll probably check after the maze game, but for now he's going to buy a couple more bombs, make sure that he is stocked up with those 700 rupees he's already got in his possession.
And Chexhuman using the logic to give that gold bee to the vendor to get the 100 rupees back that he spent.
That's a really interesting play. Now, that's really good knowledge, and yet at the same time, you got to wonder, like, he already has 700 rupees. Is he really going to need those 100 in particular? But, I mean, we'll find out.
And that was a quick library check. I did not see what was on there, so...
Believe that was a piece of heart. So I don't believe that's going to be required for either of our runners, and then just a red rupee in the maze game. So JTB is going to continue walk to the east, and he's going to check that shovel spot out, which, you know, sometimes that's something really nice. It's like a sword, it's like a lamp, or a cape, you know, who knows? Could be anything.
Absolutely, and Chex is actually going to buy some more bombs himself here, but doing that, he's buying bottles now, a bottle of red goo, he's buying more bombs, he's getting that extra money just to get those safeties, even though they're already at 7 hearts, which is a nice way to start, but just getting that extra 100 is well placed.
Yeah, you know, one of the most important things about Randomizer, just playing in general, is knowing what your skill level is capable of, what you are concerned about, like what amount of stuff you'd be able to do, and when you would start feeling like, no, I'm not confident doing this without having safeties. And so, you know, if Chex says, like, at some point, I'm afraid I might have to do Mothula with, like, too few stats or whatever, then this is a great play. Just get those extra rupees and then throw it at a bottle, and that'll just add to his confidence a ton, make fights like that a lot easier. And speaking of Mothula, we did just get a fire rod inside the dam, which will, you know, eventually potentially lead to that that Mothula play.
Absolutely, and then that's another weapon they can use. So we're getting a few weapons now. We got the cane, we got the hook shot, and now the fire rod. And for most enemies, the fire rod helps kill in just one shot.
Yep, the only inconvenience being that burning animation that you gotta wait for, but otherwise it's pretty nice. JTB having the hookshot in hands, but he actually goes ahead and uses bombs on these mini Moldorms. He's doing so very effectively, just 3 bombs for all 4 of them, so very nicely done. And now he busts out the hookshot for faster movement. It's a heart container, a bomb upgrade, a power glove, a heart container, and a big 20.
Alright, so now that's literally 2/3 of Dark World access. So you gotta come to think that either they're gonna find the hammer or they're gonna have to find some swords around soon.
Yep. Titan's Mitt also a possibility, but kind of you almost don't want to see that one as much as you want to see the hammer. The hammer being, you know, a nice weapon, as well as you know, the Titan's Mitt locking 3 of the Dark World dungeons. It's a lot nicer if you just get that as your go mode item, for example. So we got the Ice Rod Cave check from JTB. He wants to get this location out of the way, make sure that it can't troll him. Chexhuman, he continues to follow along, is drops a bomb for inexplicable reasons before transitioning to the screen, but there's a big 20 in Ice Rod Cave, and Chex is going to do the mini Boldorm.
So with JTB leaving here, this makes me think he's gonna fake Flipper up to Zora, and we'll see what we have going on over there.
Yeah, this seems like a pretty reasonable play at this point. You know, different people have different feelings on whether to fake Flipper or not, but like if your next progression item is Flippers, then just getting this out of the way right now is a lot more time efficient. So he's gonna make sure he lines up the something. There we go. Almost. Oh, it was a pixel off. Alright, so just trying to make sure that he's on the last pixel of the screen, jump into the water, and screen transition on the same frame, and then he's good. And he just needs to avoid getting hit, or else he will instantaneously die, which is a feature of the randomizer. In the vanilla game, you would actually soft block.
And there's 10 bombs on Hylia Island, where most likely will not see them go get that bomb. But personally, my favorite strat to use, and you don't see it much from runners, but if you place a bomb and bomb yourself to the edge of the screen, it will put you on the exact pixel every time.
Yep, that is a perfectly good setup. The only thing, of course, is that it does some damage to you, but you know, if it's tough for you to make like 1 pixel movements, as JTB gets a shield from the hobo there, then yeah, that's a really good setup to use. JTB didn't take too super long to get the setup for the original fake flippers, so it wasn't that bad. And it looks like Chex will do again exactly the same play.
Yeah, I feel like the seed is leading you in this direction, and Chex just goes right for it.
Oh, that was perfect. Very, very nicely done. It's a quick high five by our runners here, sort of. They're like two ships passing at sea.
Yeah, and then with that moon pearl in hand, they could check this waterfall wishing here, and then set up water walking, go up to Zora, which is really nice. And one of the knowledge, like sometimes early on, I forgot that you needed a moon pearl to get in here this way, and I just thought of logically, he's a fish and he's trying to fake flipper to swim.
That's perfect. And yeah, now the fish is happily walking along on top of the water. Makes total sense. So far, he has literally found only big 20s, so that's quite something. Except, of course, the hobo having the shield, but now he's just going to make sure that he does not get sniped by any of these Zoras. He wants to be really careful, and he's going to go buy King Zora's item. Now, with the glove, this is the one item along his entire trek here that is considered to be available by the logic, so whatever's here could actually be required, but it also could be 10 arrows and completely irrelevant.
Wow, so that means literally, besides Agina, because Agina is available, we literally have Sahashala Salami and Eastern in logic here.
Yeah, not even all of Eastern. We've just got 4 chests because of that lamp requirement, which neither of them has the lamp yet. So Chex is about to get his disappointment. JTB just acquired some of his own, and now he is continuing on to Eastern. Again, you know, this early gameplay, we're just seeing both runners do exactly the same things. Now, there is a pretty common like early game meta, but it is still always interesting to see whether both runners make literally the same exact decisions. Either one of them could just go up Death Mountain right now, for example.
Yeah, it is in play form, which is really nice, and you know, making it. But we get the flute, so it's most likely going to lead him in that direction anyway.
Perfect. The flute in the back of Sahaswala leading exactly to that play. He's going to save and quit back to Sanctuary, and JTB will walk over to Kakariko. I really like his use of the hook shot so far. It's really good demonstration of his knowledge of just like what things can you use the hook shot to grapple to, and making his overworld traversal a lot more quick while he doesn't have those boots.
Oh, absolutely, and knowing, like exactly you said, knowing the items that you can hookshot to is definitely good, because there's some things that you think you could, like most skulls, but there's those couple skulls in Thieves Town that have the anti-fairy bunny beams underneath, and you won't be able to hookshot to them. So just having those little bit of knowledge helps out with definitely use of that hookshot.
Some lovely music from the flute being played for all of you, and now the duck is loose, and yeah, I know it doesn't rhyme, cry more, but JTB is going to go ahead and bust that out, and he will probably head directly up to Death Mountain. Chex is actually opting to continue on to Eastern for his part, so we'll see whether or not this ends up being a difference maker early on here.
Absolutely, and JTB using the hook shot in to Dark Walk to get the old man. Personally, I tried that a couple times, and it is not as easy as it makes it look. If I don't have a sword or the boomerang, it's a lot harder to gauge where you are in that room.
Yeah, I've heard about other runners using like audio cues rather than any particular item to just know when to turn, which is a really great way of doing this. This movement is mostly possible to do by just holding directions down for like just until a lot of time is expired, and then switch to a different direction. But one part in particular has like a pit that you'll fall into if you do that, so you gotta be a little more careful. But JTB did a really nice job navigating it, no problem with that hook shot. It'll save him time later from having to do the cave again, and gets him that save and quit point. Now we're gonna see what's up top in Spectacle Rock and on Spectacle Rock.
Absolutely, and without the mirror, we're not going to be able to really see what's up here. And oh, it's a little bit of literacy. So that's a bit of information.
Yeah, and there's just a big 5 inside Spectacle Rock, so the book gonna taunt them for a little bit. On the bright side, maybe by the time you come back here and have access to that mirror to be able to get that book, you might also have the Master Sword, so you can just check that Ether Tablet immediately. But for now, JTB will be able to do the east side of Death Mountain, but he will not be able to access Hera because no hammer and no mirror, so he's got no path to reach it.
Well, Chexhuman did just find the lamp in Eastern. So with that being, he's not going to have to do any Dark Dungeon. So it's going to beg to differ. If JTB finds other items, we might not see him come this way.
Yeah, and this also means that basically the big key chest in Eastern Palace, which could have something important, is also in Logic. We'll see what that's going to be. I have not, unfortunately, been counting his items in Eastern Palace. We also saw JTB. He's working on Paradox Cave. He checked 2 chests, 300 rupees, and I think it was like a heart piece or something. But now we're going to see the real money here, potentially.
Literally real money.
Oh, wow.
Wow. So we get a sword for JTB. Meanwhile, Chexhuman found the mirror. So logically, it wanted you to go to Eastern to get the lamp and the mirror in order to go up the mountain to get the book.
Well, he had the flute from Sahaswara, so that I think either way you've got access up the mountain, but that mirror is huge. It's gonna make the Death Mountain trip for Chex way more efficient. He's gonna be able to check Hera immediately. JTB, meanwhile, he had a little problem with that bomb jump. Possibly, I'm not gonna suggest that it is because of the fish sprite. I'm just gonna say that it is because of the fish sprite.
He needs the help. He is a fish, right? That's one of the main reasons personally why I have not tried all the sprites. I've gotten comfortable with the Link sprite, so until I really practice with a different sprite, I just lean to go towards the regular Link. So
yeah, I mean, a huge part of Randomizer is just, again, it's just doing what you're comfortable with. So Chexhuman showing us like, I'm comfortable with this Link sprite, so I'm going to stick with it. And JTB presumably is totally fine with this fish sprite. Now he does find a big 20 in Spiral Cave, so everything up here except the sword, pretty forgettable. The sword, pretty important.
absolutely, and Chex is going to get the sword probably afterwards, but he can finish Hera while he's up here, and that would be the first crystal.
He actually can't. He doesn't have a sword or hammer yet. So he actually needs that sword before he can finish the dungeon, and I guess the question is, which one is he going to go to first?
It's a good question. I think if he heads north, he only can get technically two items in Hera. So if I was him, if I was going to go with the voluminous location, I would head right first and then go to Hera.
That is a possibility. He did head up first, but that still might not necessarily mean he's going to Hera yet. But for JTB's part, he went to desert area. He checked the ledge, which was not a useful item, and he checked Agina's cave. That was a piece of heart. He is now heading back to Eastern. He's going to be getting that mirror before too long. But this is turning out really nicely for Chex, and he's already kind of made up basically all that time that he kind of fell behind from doing the lumberjack check and some of the slower stuff earlier on. And he gets that book, so we're going to see what's on Ether Tablet.
And there's that knowledge, getting that knowledge, knowing where things are is definitely nice. And it's just a little bit of money, so nothing too important there.
and spares him having to worry about coming back here later on just to get that particular item. So that is a nice little bit of peace of mind. And now he is going to head into Hera. Now, I'm not sure at what point here, if he hasn't already realized at what point he's going to end up high. Those are useful. Those boots, you want those.
Wow. Just all these like one-off locations that he can go check, and he's gonna check this other check here, see if it's a big key or a small key. Is he gonna head up? Is the question. No, he's gonna dip
No.
out.
Okay.
All right, good.
All right, so that's an interesting play. He could have opted to just go to Paradox Cave first, but he might have been thinking, maybe I'll get something here that's useful for Paradox Cave. So now he's going to head over to the east. I mean, hey, boots are going to make this a bit faster for sure. So that is a really, really nice find. And then he'll be able to quickly get back to Hera as well to clear it afterwards.
He's gotta
Assuming
watch.
he doesn't die.
But
Whew.
also with that mirror in hand, he can now do the glitch here, so he doesn't have to worry about going all the way down to the bottom. So just the items that is given is making this trip a little bit more lucrative for him.
Yep, and he's going to collect that sword momentarily, so we'll see how he chooses to use it. JTB now collecting his lamp, and he's like, oh, that's convenient. And Chex is going to deal with some more mini Moldorms. But with 4 hearts and a hookshot, he should be totally alright now. There we go. Also, I guess we don't usually talk about the details, but as Chex is going to pick up his sword here, that block deletion glitch that he just did to get inside Paradox Cave a little more quickly is really, really straightforward to do in the 1.0 Japanese version. Is you just equip the mirror, push the block, and while the block is moving, just push the mirror button. As long as you're in a room where you can't normally use the mirror, so it plays the burp burp sound, that will cause the block to just despawn because the game is magic.
Yes, absolutely. And with that sword in hand, we'll see if he actually makes his way back over to Hera, because the only other option for these two runners is then to go check what's in desert. So barring any items, they gotta look. They have a sword, they have the lamp. So the question is, do they find either the next glove, the hammer, or if they get that trolley cape and they're gonna have to go do Aga?
JTB finally checking up on his map to figure out what's what. He could know what Eastern was because, or at least that it was a pendant, because while he was in there, it was playing the Light World dungeon music. Chex opts to flute back to 3, and he's going to go ahead and check Bonk Rocks, yeah.
Forgot about that location, so that's just a one-off spot, but could be item very useful here.
Yeah, I don't think it's too much slower to do this right now and then flute back again for Hera in a minute. Oh, here's a Dark World check. There's a red crystals on Thieves Town and Ice, and a blue pendant on Swamp, and everything else is crystal.
And JTB cut that really close to get that.
Why, Ashra, why don't you want to run into that little pink dude?
Because he likes to talk to you, and it takes a lot of the time, and you don't want that to happen.
I believe the number of text boxes is 7. It's not a good time. But this is Chex heading into desert, so he has said, I'll come back to Hera in a bit, but for now let's get desert out of the way, because I think it's more likely that the 2 items here have progression than the 1 item left in Hera.
Yeah, and actually it is fully clearable, so we gotta hope that Landmola does not have an item, otherwise he might full clear this dungeon.
Yeah, which of course also could be the required progression. We'll see. It is a non-green pendant, so obviously the runners, unless it's a pedestal seed, they're hoping they can avoid this. Chex picks up a small key from the torch, so desert was boots locked, but of course with the early boots, that's not a huge deal. JTB picked up his boots, and he is continuing up the dungeon, so he'll be finishing up Hera along the way here and hoping that he can get his remaining item before fighting or before having to go to the basement.
Yeah, you don't want to go into the basement if you don't have to. Get the 30 seconds, and looks like, barring what's in. Actually, you didn't find any items, so Lamb Mullis does have one of the items.
Yep, the big chest in Landmola's. And JTB finds the other item in Hera and is just a big 20, so pretty good call for Chexhuman working out here, as he will not be missing any progression from not having finished Hera.
No, but JTB will get his first crystal here, which is very nice to have. Meanwhile, though, he is going to be doing, got to be doing NMG strats here on Moldorm because all he has is Fighter Sword, so 6 slashes.
Yeah, like we said, he's got a sub 140 time in this category, which unfortunately does not necessarily mean much when you get lodged in a corner there. And oh gosh, okay. Very nearly got knocked through that middle hole, which you really don't want to get knocked through. But fortunately, he makes it back up. So he's going to take another shot at Moldorm. This fight is... It's everyone always calls this Troll Dorm. It is within your control to a significant extent, but certainly there's a decent chance of just like, well, he did a weird pattern that was very hard to adapt to, and you got wrecked.
Absolutely, and Chexhuman is making his way back towards Landmola to see what the last item is.
Oh, JTB getting a second knockdown from Moldorm, unfortunately. He was on the last hit as well. And that's when Moldorm speeds up and becomes a lot more challenging. So this is a pretty unfortunate turn of events. This is the kind of thing that sets you on tilt a little bit, potentially.
Yeah, he's just going to have to settle himself down and know that he got this. He easily could just do the 6 slashes. Don't let Troldorm put you in a rut here and go on it. Essentially, though, he does do this fight twice because he's done 6 slashes now and has to do 6 more right here.
Chex busting out that fire rod for the Landmola's fight and doing pretty well, but then ran out, and now it's got to be bombs. Oh boy. Chaos Mario works as well. That's actually very, very nice use of bombs. Oh. Oh, no, wait. Moldorm's fine. The key is fine. He doesn't need that. He's already got the 2 items. And Chex gets the hammer off of Landmola's. So there's the Dark World access. There's the progression. Wow.
Talk about the play there. So Chexhuman is probably going to flute. I wonder if he's going to do Southern Dark World or go right into Skullwoods and Dark Kakariko area.
Well, he's going to start with a Gina. He's going to see what's in here. It is just a piece of heart, and then he'll be off to one of those Dark World locations. I always like seeing which one each particular runner chooses to do. JTB is going to follow a little bit in his footsteps. He is, you would call him somewhat behind at this point because of the fact that he still has to go to Desert and claim that hammer, but he does have the, kind of counter advantage of having finished Hera already, which Chex will have to do later, but it's not that huge of a time sink, so definitely Chex is going to have a nice advantage going to the Dark World here.
Yeah, just Chex's decision to go to Eastern first, and not just skipping right out of Sahashla's hut, gave him that little bit of edge. And nope, Chex just realized he does not have the Titan's Miss. Got to go the long way around.
I have had this exact thing many, many times before, except sometimes I do it the opposite way, where I have the mitt, and I go towards the hammer entrance, and then I'm like, wait, crap.
Oh yeah, I've done that on multiple occasions.
And for a very brief instant, it looked like Chex was going to head to the pedestal, having that book in hand. But no, he does not need to waste his time like that. He says, "I'm perfectly content, just continuing into the Dark World, finding out from this map check what everything is." So he's going to be brought up to speed with all the same info that we already have, and then we'll see which direction he opts to go. Could finish either of Skullwoods or Thieves Town, and it looks like he's starting with Skullwoods.
Now, Skullwoods with hammer, just regular sword, not half magic, just regular fire rod, and green mail. Montula can be quite a pain and do a lot of damage, so it's brazen on him right here, but this is probably why they're in the brackets, and I'm not, and look at that, another great play by Chex.
Of course, Skullwoods has often been referred to as value woods in the past. There are both of the items in this dungeon. Each dungeon, of course, has a known number of non-dungeon items available to collect. And in the case of Skullwoods, it is 2. The remainder have to be the map, the compass, the big key, and the 3 small keys. One of which is always in this chest here. Oh, I love the little block clip there. Oh, man. I'm loving the little displays by Chexhuman here. He's doing a great job. But yeah, the one nice thing is he did pick up that red potion earlier back in Kakariko. And so that's going to make a fight like this upcoming Mothula fight, assuming he continues to it, a lot less scary.
Absolutely, that little bit of safety is definitely nice to have, and he's gonna go get that key from that crystal from Mothula, heading right to the back, and we shall see how Mothula treats him. And I don't know if he still has one of the 2 bees. You could use that bee on Mothula. Mothula is the only boss that a bee can actually hurt.
That's true. Bees have different effects too on other bosses. On Trinex, for example, you can deploy a bee and it will actually distract the ice head, mostly preventing it from casting its ice breath, which is really nice. But it's not totally like foolproof. But yeah, bees are fun. We'll see if he opts to make use of that, and he's also got that red potion. He's got tons of options. Meanwhile, JTB is getting into the back section of Desert. These 2 dungeons both being pretty quick, ultimately. And we'll probably see some boss fights in pretty, nearly sync, basically.
I thought Chex was gonna go full fighter sword damage on that Gibdo there. I don't know how many slashes it takes, but it takes a lot.
Too many. It's way too many. Here we go, though. Here's the Mothula fight. He's going to start with some spin action from his sword. He's only got a couple fire rod shots. He goes ahead and burns them quickly, and now it's just all fighter sword slashes, and if he wants, spins. Meanwhile, fire rod for JTB on landmowers, and he's making quick work of them, so he's going to collect that hammer. Check's going to bust out the hammer as well, but that's a challenge of its own because this hitbox is pretty awkward.
Yeah, and Mothula is not being nice right now. He's hugging these walls, and with Mothula, if you hit him into the spikes, it nullifies the damage, but gets him down with the last hammer strat. And let's see if he checks the pedestal here. He can mirror out and see if we got ourselves the pedestal steed.
Yeah, in fact, I would not at all be surprised if that is the specific reason that he decided to do this. Now, JTB also picking up some potion there from the magic shop, and he's going to save and quit. Not sure exactly why he's saving and quitting. So he can get to Link's house. Interesting. And yeah, here's that pedestal check. So get your pedestal hype going until the moment in just a few moments where you find out that it's not a pedestal seed. What a shame.
It just increases storage, and JTB with that hammer in hand is going to take the south route, and here's the divergence. Getting that Dark World access, you can go in 2 different ways, and depending on what's up here in this direction, we'll see if it's the right play or the wrong play, even though we know the bow is in Skull Woods. But
yeah, this could end up getting him something really nice. I mean, there's plenty of potential options. The flippers wouldn't be super amazing since we don't know of anything being blocked by them yet. That's a full heart. That's some bombs. Oh, that was actually a Sank heart. That was a piece of heart. And that's a red rupee. So Hype Cave being pretty worthless, but something like Stumpy could still pay out pretty big.
absolutely, and I've had seeds lately where Titan's Mitts was in Digging Game, which is a nice spot to find them. So if you can find those Titan's Mitts, that's another item location that would be really nice to know. Meanwhile, Chexhuman is doing the northern route here. Going to check Graveyard and King's Tomb.
Yeah, I really like the way Chex is doing incredibly efficient routing. He went north to Skull Woods knowing that he had the mirror and book in hand, so he's going to be able to mirror and check that pedestal. JTB finds a fire shield in K45, so he's not going to bother picking that up. But in addition to having done that, since he's got the mirror, he's got the boots, he can also come this way, pick up the item in Graveyard Ledge, or in this case, I guess, skip it. And now he can mirror to King's Tomb and check that. Now, the only thing that he can't do here is he can't actually get across to the east side of the Dark World, because from this side, he doesn't have the flippers to get over there. But all that's really going to mean is he won't be able to check the catfish.
And no one likes going to catfish, so I'm sure he's not salty about that right now. But King's Tomb just has a bit 20, and I swear we've had to find all 20 rubies in this seed already.
We've certainly seen at least 27, counting the ones that have dropped off enemies and the ones that JTB is digging up here from this digging game, which does yield a red bottle, so that's really nice. Check's actually turning out not only to not needing that red bottle on the Mothula fight, but barely taking damage at all. I think it was only a little bit at the end as he busted out the hammer, but it was a very effective fight. I wouldn't be surprised to see a similar one from JTB. Of course, Mothula in the NMG run, thanks to how much effort and kind of practice you put into that, it actually ends up being one of the easier ones.
Absolutely, and I'm very impressed with the routing that Chex is doing here. You know, not opting just to fly all the way over to Kakariko and deciding to use those boots to his advantage and just move over, so he doesn't have to worry about going back and going through the woods to get back to the Dark World. Very nice knowledge of the game there, and just very impressive.
Yeah, we know exactly why these two runners have made the bracket here and why they're at this stage, and we can see the evidence of why they're both, 1-1 against each other. But this, of course, is the deciding match, so only one of them gets to move on, and it's really going to come down to things like this routing efficiency. And unfortunately, so far, none of JTB's plays have paid off. Even the ones that he's kind of made after, that Eastern Palace result, he hasn't really been able to make up that time yet. So that's really going to be kind of the deciding factor, and we're going to see possibly if if that bow ends up not being super helpful for Chex, if it takes JTB a while to get to Skull, and maybe that turns out to be like his go mode item, maybe that helps him out.
Absolutely, and Chex finding a shield has the fire shield now for him, and during the blind fight, even just for a little bit of safety, if some of those red balls can hit that shield for you and not hit yourself, is definitely nice to have.
Yeah, that boy. I'm gonna try not to flash back to too many of my own races, so I'm just gonna continue talking about Chex, who's really enjoying the pleasure of having these boots and thieves down. JTB will be following suit into this dungeon, and so far we haven't seen any progression here, but fortunately with the boots, this is a much quicker dungeon than if you do not have them.
Absolutely, and Hellway giving its name to Chex there was being very stubborn in its location for the items. And meanwhile, even though I just realized JTB's at 14 hearts, but Chexhuman being at 10 hearts, a lot of the enemies in this Dark World can do 2-3 hearts of damage, and unless they find a mail upgrade, which I'm sure they don't need, but just got to keep in mind of their enemy intake here.
Yeah, agreed. Well, Chex is doing a pretty solid job avoiding any major mishaps, and he has just gotten a heart refill. He's at 11 right now, just kidding, 10, but 11 max. So he is at pretty safe level. He's gonna get that red potion from the digging game, so he's gonna be pretty happy with his level of safety. But man, as you said, a mail upgrade would be great. Any old time, you never miss those.
I don't know, absolutely. And meanwhile, I'm sure both these runners do know the script for blind, so they're not going to have to worry about falling off there and getting too much damage in blind's fight. But JTB having to use a potion there for the exact reason I said, getting bodied by a lot of those items, taking 2-3 hearts of damage is not fun.
Yeah, you definitely want to be careful of that. Fortunately, JTB having... Well, actually, I guess that was his only one of those, right? Because he hadn't... Oh, no, he bought a blue one, so he's fine. Oh, I looked away. There was a Master Sword in that big chest.
Yes, it was, and which is nice. It doesn't do more damage to blind, but gives you a little bit more reach to keep you on that said script of the fight.
Yeah, and we're going to see how Chex does here as he begins this fight. You just want to make sure that you're in the right position and get that sword pointed out at Blind as quickly as possible. And getting a little bit off script now, he gets kind of bonked by one of those little beam shots from the heads, but he is doing a really solid job at making sure he's positioned well, dodging all of those shots, and managing to come out of the fight, hammering a little bit out of frustration maybe, but he gets his coveted map and the first of his 2 red crystals.
Very nice. And if you're not familiar with this, these runners make look like this script fight is really easy. But if you do not have the knowledge of this fight, knowing that I think it's every 4th eyeball shot that those heads do is a homing shot, and able to dodge it, it's very hard to stay on that said script. So.
It looks like Chex actually avoided the chest game before entering the dungeon. That turned out to have a piece of heart, a heart container. So he could have been at 12 hearts, but not a huge deal, obviously, not causing him any major issues. JTB ending up having to use a potion, but Chex not so far. But for his part, JTB is playing pretty safe since then. He does get a little bit roughed up by that Bari. This room is kind of annoying sometimes, but otherwise he's fine. And Chex is now going to the south to cover these locations that JTB just did.
Absolutely, and with the knowledge that we have from both these runners using now, the progression items got to be either in pod or in on the pyramid or in catfish, because it's the only other item places we have not checked yet.
Yeah, and I mean, pod seems like a very good chance given the presence of bow being pretty accessible and hammer being on landwall as in their dark world access, so they should definitely have the opportunity to full clear that should they choose. And with Chex going this direction to get there, aside from a brief detour to go check the Bombos tablet that he'll probably make, I would be very surprised if he didn't also go take a trip over to Palace of Darkness.
And Chex opting to complete his shield set. We're going to know that JTB is only going to have red shield by the end, so.
Boy, that'll make that laser bridge way easier. In like an hour or whenever it is they get there.
But oddly enough, if that said progression is it's Titan's Myths, which most likely it's gonna tend to be, unless it's gonna be the flippers, because it's the only other. No, it's gotta be Titan's Myths that they're gonna need.
Well, it could be flippers to get them in the swamp, which boy would suck for both of them. But yeah, hopefully it's not flippers.
Yes, but that being said, what my point was going to be is that they will have, minus the medallion, all the items to complete Turtle Rock.
And Ice Rod.
Oh, that's right, of course. But you know what? 95% of the time, I feel that Ice Rod's in Turtle Rock itself anyway.
You're not even wrong. It really is. Well, we'll find out how that's going to end up playing out. Chex is going to head, of course, over to the east here to get to Hype Cave, getting bodied by a skull popping out of the grass. But after he checks Hype Cave, I would be very, very surprised to see him not go directly to Palace of Darkness, pretty much. I also like that even though this menu is a little bit awkward, doesn't give them a really great way to quickly get to bombs. Chex is just going with the brute force approach, just pressing right a whole bunch of times very quickly to get to where he wants to be in this menu.
Yeah, there's something said that just mashing it over and getting where you need to go. It'll be interesting to see if Check decides to go right to pod or check the pyramid ledge and catfish before heading over there.
I think, well, okay, I could say whatever I think, but what Chex is doing is he's going straight to pod. A lot of people will often opt to go to pyramid first, but I think this makes a lot of sense in Chex's case. You don't have that many items left for go mode. If you do go to pyramid, you probably also want to loop in catfish because like there's no other occasion when you're going to do it, and pod just has way more items left. available.
Absolutely. So most likely, this is going to be the play that's going to lead to the next progression item. And using the knowledge of Kiki there, stopping with enough time for him to scoot up to him there and not wait for him to walk his way over to open that. It's one of the NMG strats, which is really nice to utilize.
Interesting. I didn't even know that one, so that's pretty nice to learn. But meanwhile, JTB did do a very good job with absolutely, no disrespect to him. He did a very good job of dispatching Mothula. Unfortunately, one decision that he made that is not going to work out too well for him is that he did the back of Skull first. And it turned out both of the items in Skull were in. If you take the typical route in Skull, they're in the very first 2 chests that you check. So unfortunately, he is going to probably check a whole bunch of extra chests in Skull and just waste a few seconds that right now he really doesn't want to waste. Chex is off to a very significant lead right now.
Yeah, the only time that JTB saved in Skull Woods, which is really nullified, but since he did check the typical vanilla big key location, he had that extra key, did not have to worry about killing that Gibdos in the last room to get that key.
That's true. That is an often underrated thing. As Chex picks up a couple small keys here in the traditionally small key filled beginning of pod. He did continue directly to the right side because the first chest was not a key. I'd missed what it actually was, but it was not a key. And he gets the big key on the bridge here, so I believe the remaining chests here have to be keys if I'm counting things correctly.
Yeah, I think you're right, because he's gonna spend a key here to open this chest, so it's gonna leave him 2. It's gonna leave him 1 for the back. He's gonna find 1 key in the back in one of those chests back there. But I think that vanilla big key chest is gonna be a small key.
Yeah, I think that's 4 total small keys in the front, which means there should be 2 in the back. I think, if I counted everything correctly. So he is going to continue to the back, has opened a bunch of other doors, and is down to 1 key, and we'll see how he opts to use that.
And, there's a second key. So if he finds a key down here, there is going to be an item in the Harmless Hellway room.
Correct. So we'll see whether he's able to follow that logic. And there is another key there. So even if he wasn't planning or wasn't aware of all the key logic implications, he will check the Hellway. And he will pick up a piece of heart. Yay. And here finally is JTB's Lumberjack ledge check. He finally has the boots. He has a good opportunity to route this in, and he finds out it's a big 20. And so he is suitably disappointed.
But that being said, even though Chex has that slight lead, you cannot knock JTB's routing. He did have sufficient routing for what he's done so far, and he's following the logic in his own routing, which is very commendable on his own. It's just that Chex made those extra plays early that just put him ahead. And there's our mail upgrade that's so nicely found.
Very nice pickup for Chex. He will also check the big chest. There's a compass. There it is. So that means that the remaining chest in the dungeon or I should say the remaining location on the bus will have a non-dungeon item that could be potential progression. And we haven't seen any other progression in here, so it had better be.
Oh yeah, so Helmosaur is either going to have nothing, have the Titan's Mitts, or the Flippers, and I think, unless it's like some sort of fetch quest where they get like powder to go do Magic Bat.
Yep. Or it could be on a catfish, but hopefully not. That's a dark timeline. Let's not think about that. Chex, of course, we should continue to mention that Chex has not finished Hera yet, so that is one difference between the 2 runners. The difference in time right now is probably still in favor of Chex in general. However, that is something that he will have to get to, and he'll probably not want to go up there again until he has the mitt. So, fortunately, we know it can't be up there, but it's just something that's going to potentially delay him from doing that play.
Actually, there is one place that it could be up here, and that's Spike Cave.
Oh, oh, that is a very dark timeline, Asherel.
Yeah, I don't wish it on him at all, but he's probably hoping that he's not going. By the way, that's perfect turtle room there from him with the hammer, but it will probably be perfect routing for him, and he's probably thinking about it that just to do it right before going into GT, because you're going to be literally right there.
Yep, and it is a very fast dungeon to finish up. So here's JTB following suit with the pod play as Chex busts out his hammer, and he's going to tink this face mask 17 total times to break it open, and then most likely we will see him slash the face 8 times total. Oh, he's going for hammer strats. This is kind of like an NMG fight since he only has Master Sword, but he also has Blue Mail and a million hearts, so that makes it a little bit nicer.
Oh
Especially
yeah,
since he's getting bodied a little bit.
I know Helmasaur has been the bane for my NMG tryings to do, so having that much health in Blue Mill is very nicely warranted.
And there's the Titan's Mitt for Chex. So Pod having the next answer. The Titan's Mitt unlocking the remaining 3 crystal dungeons aside from Hera. And now that question is going to be what medallions are required and where's that ice rod?
So
Flippers
yeah,
could even
Flippers.
be bypassed.
For knowledge, he is opting to go do the pyramid and catfish here. I was gonna say it'd be interesting to see. Oh nope, I lied. Where he decides to go, if he checks the Mire location or goes up and does Dark Death Mountain, which personally I think that would be the play I'd do, but he's going the opposite direction.
Yeah, checking Mire is a great start here just because it gets you that 1 medallion knowledge immediately. Getting the Turtle Rock knowledge is a lot slower, of course, but he also has a good reason to go back up to Turtle Rock. He isn't even... There it is, Quake. Okay. So 1 medallion is now known, and we'll see where that comes from. Now, he has already checked everything in Desert Area thanks to the earlier gameplay, so the next thing is just Checkerboard Cave here, and then, honestly, I think he probably will go to Death Mountain after that. He'll clear up Hera, clear up Dark Death Mountain, and check what that Turtle Rock medallion is. Maybe even do Spike Cave.
I mean, he could too if he wants to. Oh, nice! He's gonna get the Tempered Sword here in Checkerboard Cave. But if he opts to, with the items that he has, he could fake Flipper and complete Ice to get that other 5/6 crystal.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't be surprised to see at least one of the 2 runners do that. In fact, it looks like Chex is doing exactly that just immediately. He's like, you know what? I'm not waiting at all. I'm going straight to ice. I actually really love this play because you do not need flippers in this seed. You can easily bypass them by just doing ice. And he thinks, hey, you know, this is the other 5/6, and it's got 3 non-dungeon items in it, so he's going to get a total of 5 items by doing this dungeon. And that is potentially, you know, a game-winning play right here.
Absolutely, because you know what? It's easily minus obviously the Flipper location where it could be, but behind Fat Fairy could easily either be the medallion needed or Ice Rod just to complete Turtle Rock. So I really like this play. Nice heads up by him.
So JTB continuing back into pod. Now, something that I did notice while we were talking a lot about Chex's routing is that JTB unfortunately was not able to take advantage of pod like key counting knowledge. He could have excluded both the drop-down chest check and the vanilla big key chest location. Now Chex, I think, intentionally took the drop-down key just to make sure that he had enough without having to like do a hammer jump or something. JTB ended up checking both, so it's just another bunch of seconds that right now he really can't afford to be spending.
And that could be possibly because you usually don't think of key logic with regular rando. It's more of the key sanity type thing, knowing that you only need a certain amount of keys to beat it. And I believe Chexhuman has done key sanity, so he has that logic in it. So if you don't normally do that type of randomizer, it might just slip your mind.
JTB has collected the big chest and pod. He has finished everything except the boss, so he's going to head down there and do that duty. While Chex performs a very well-executed Ice Palace bomb jump, of course a staple of both the No Major Glitches speedrun and Randomizer runs. And he could actually opt to skip this if he thought it was appropriate based on his routing of the dungeon. But he says he's going to go ahead and do it. Basically, the thinking is if you skip it, if you're going to full clear the dungeon, it's a little more efficient to skip it. But if you're looking for one item, so you think you have to full clear the dungeon, but you want to be able to switch back to like a go mode style in case you get your go mode item, then it's probably better to do the bomb jump. So he might be thinking along those lines, or he might just be thinking, I'm comfortable navigating it this way, so I'm just going to do it.
Yeah, with a couple of the bomb jump knowledges, the small ones that are easily set upable, if that's even a word.
It totally is now.
Doing the bomb jump is probably more beneficial, but if you do not know those bomb jumps, the other ones in this dungeon, it might not be. It might be just a little bit quicker way just to do it the vanilla way. But that being said, very comfortable here. You know, I can see Chexhuman probably knows all the bomb jumps in this dungeon. So
yeah, there's a couple ones that are slightly more obscure, but they're just really nice to have knowledge of. There's our first non-dungeon item in Ice with just 3 bombs, so it's 1 out of 3, and then the Pyramid Fairy having the 2 more implied items that'll come out of here, so 1 out of 5, so to speak. But now Chex will check this chest, and then he's still got the Freezor room, which at this point seems pretty likely to have an item, the Iced Tea chest, big chest, and the boss. And let's see what our other 2 items are going to be. Well, there's number 2. It's a piece of heart.
it looked like he thought about doing the bomb jump there to go across and decided not to.
Reasonable choice. JTB dispatching the King Helmasaur with using those Master Sword Slashes. Again, the no major glitches style approach to fighting him. And Chex is now going to take his drop down and he'll walk back up to reach the Iced Tea chest. He's only got 2 of the 3 items so far, and that could have the remaining 1.
I think he actually opted to do that because he needed the key. He did not have a key, so he had to go down below to get the key out of the big key chest if he wanted to do that specific routing.
Yeah, I looked away and didn't notice that. Good call. Here's that Iced Tea chest. That's a blue rupee. So absolutely nothing in ice, and JTB is following the exact play. So I really like this thinking by both of them, but unfortunately it's just doing nothing for them right now.
Yeah, both these runners, similar routings to each other, just in different times. So you got to give it to them. They're doing what the seed wants them to do, and even if the seed doesn't want them to do it, they're doing it either way.
Yeah, and they're getting that ice play out of the way, even despite not having flippers, so they can be 100% sure that it's not just like, oh, you know, I'm going looking on Death Mountain for the flippers. Instead, they know that the progression probably is on Death Mountain, and it's going to be something other than the flippers. So this is where we're going to see, as JTB has like the entirety of ice left, while Chexhuman is finishing up, we're going to see how much time that Hera play is going to, you know, kind of even them back up. What a beautiful fight.
Textbook fight, really. The one difference that JTB has here, he did not go to the mire area, so he does not have the tempered sword.
Interesting. That's going to be an annoyance at best, but it could potentially be really, you know, upsetting and disruptive on Cold Stare. But fortunately, he has that blue mail, so he is good in that regard.
And if he's good at not taking damage, he can opt, if he has a full bar like he has right now, to use that Fire Rod and Sword Beam strats at the same time to conserve magic. Personally, I have not done it myself. I have not practiced that mechanic, but if you do know it, it helps a lot.
All right, and Chex is going directly to that Pyramid Fairy play. So he says, I'm not going to wait at all. I'm going to do this immediately. This is what I wanted to find out. So if this has his next thing, that's going to be really nice. Our tracker, Yoinker's wife, thanks very much, reminds us that Jeremiah the blacksmith and the purple chest do also both exist and are in play now thanks to that Titan's Net. Which, of course, we didn't see when the two of them went to the Village of Outcasts. And I have a feeling they're going to kind of want to avoid a little bit just because they don't want to have to go back there. Chex?
He is doing the bomb glitch at 0 and pulls it off perfectly. If you leave the bomb and screen transition when the bomb is at 0 at the exact moment, it acts like the bomb is still there.
And now we'll also finally see that pyramid play. And boy, it's been so long since I've seen that glitch. I just did not even realize what he was doing. So here's that Pyramid Fairy check. It's 50 rupees and a single arrow. Thanks a lot, Pyramid Fairy. But, I mean, Chex has got plenty of options left. He will go ahead and exercise the catfish one right now. There's no other time that this is going to be good to do, so he might as well get out of the way.
So this could be interesting. Could we have Vanilla Quake at Catfish to go to Meyer?
Ooh, that would be something. I don't want to think about things like that. I like seeds that are a little bit nicer to the runners personally, but we'll see. I mean, Chex has done a really good job routing this so that the seed couldn't be particularly mean to him. Like, nothing that it's done so far has seemed particularly bad because Chex has routed very well. Ditto for JTB. Unfortunately for JTB, if he just keeps following the exact same stuff Chex is doing, at this point he might not ever catch up.
Yeah, and just a piece of heart. So we are most likely going to get the Smith chain here unless Chexhuman decides to go to Dark Death Mountain.
I would be unsurprised by either play. It does look like he'll make the Death Mountain play. So this gives him the 6 locations on Dark Death Mountain, as well as potentially Spike Cave, plus the 1 remaining non-dungeon item in Hera. So that is a total of whatever. I can't do math. It's too late at night. But that number that I just said.
I believe it's 7, and then with Spike Cave makes it 8, and then he can finish Hera if he wants.
Perfect. Yes, that. And I would be very surprised if he did not finish up Hera, unless he finds an opportunity to go into Turtle Rock, like the Ice Rod and the Turtle Rock Medallion, to show up here. But otherwise, I'd expect the Hera play first. But Super Bunny Cave coming up. JTB opted not to bomb jump Ice Palace, so you're seeing from him a slightly different approach as he's navigating this area, and he did not need to drop all the way down then come all the way back up to get to the thing. Yeah.
Super Bunny Cave only having a big 20 and 3 bombs, so we're going to see Spike Cave and what our medallion is for Turtle Rock.
Here we go. He's going to Turtle Rock first, and we're going to see that it is also Quake. So that leaves us at just Quake and Ice Rod for Go Mode, and that's all. Boy, those are some awful Go Mode items. Ugh.
Absolutely. Oh. Would it be even awful if they find Quake and then Ice Rods and Meyer? Ugh.
That would be it would also be somewhat awful if they found Powder and they have to go back. But I mean, this is good. At least they can go back to Village of Outcasts and do everything, including the Powder, all at the same time. So it could be a lot worse.
Absolutely, and actually getting Powder there is one of the one of the best, if not the best, safety item. Personally, Powder is you could just in a lot of the late dungeons. I can't speak; it's late, and I'm sorry. But late dungeons, having a lot of the anti-fairies and bunny beams that you can use just to refill your health is very nice to have. And JTB is just slashing his way at Cold Stare, but all in all, very nice fight.
Yeah, he managed to get through it. He kind of, had to brute force a little bit there at the end, as Master Sword is half as effective at damaging Cold Stare as the Tempered Sword. He did make good use of the Fire Rod to start that fight off, and he had a blue potion, in fact, so he actually, I think, probably chugged it. But there's Chexhuman's second item in Harris, so he gets his little bit of disappointment, and now we're going to see that, the effect of that catch-up, as Chex is finally covering this dungeon that JTB already has done. JTB is now heading to the Mire area.
He's probably going to be a little bit salty finding the sword in Checkboard Cave.
Yeah, and nothing useful here, although I guess that will justify his previous decisions at least. But there is crystal number 5 for Chexhuman. So this seed is progressing at a pretty good pace. If they can get the Ice Rod and Quake Medallion soon, they're going to be able to do some very nice clears of Misery Mire and Eternal Rock and get some pretty solid times on what could easily have been a much, much more annoying seed. But they've both followed the progression of this seed very well.
Yeah, and it's still close. I would say that, JTB is really not that far behind Chexhuman. I would say 2-3 minutes maybe. And that can easily take up to maybe a fall or two to Moldorm 2, or just routing in GT in general. So not at all lost for him at this point either.
Yep, and as Chex picks up 300 rupees for Spike Cave, certainly JTB's got to be hoping a little bit for, of course, JTB has no idea where Chex is relative to him, so, hypothetically, if JTB knew what was going on in the race, he would have to be hoping for certain kinds of outcomes, and one of those would probably be Chex goes to check something that just turns out to be not useful, like, for example, going to clear Eastern. Either that, or JTB goes to check that, and that turns out to have, like, the vital item on Armos. But, he has to hope for something to change somewhere. If they both keep playing as well as they have and making as few mistakes as they have, Chex will just maintain the exact same gap, and it's over for JTB.
Well, JTB did make up a little bit of time. It also depends on where he goes, but he did not go do Pyramid Fairy. So that transition of screens and checking those he did catch up a little bit there.
Yeah, that's a great point. He does get his junk from Super Bunny Cave, as Chex is now doing that Village of Outcasts play. He's going to do the Blacksmith, he's going to do the Hammer Picks, he's going to do the Powder, and he is going to do the Purple Chest. And surely at least one of those has something.
I mean, they have to. Because besides this,
Green pendant.
The green pendant, yes. The Hashla could definitely have an item, but you don't wish that on anybody.
Yeah, I would love to see these guys get rewarded with something nice and soon. Unfortunately, none of these things so far has been it. And Chex is actually going to get sucked into his portal there, so he's not taking that bat just yet. He'll probably mirror here, yeah, and now he'll go check it out with the chest in tow. Alright, JTB went back to Link's house. He's fluting to 3. So this looks
probably doing this same play.
Yeah. Oh, well, there's Quake from the bat. That's something.
So you had to make your way up to Dark Death Mountain to see that you needed Quake to get the Powder and Hookshot Cave in order to go back up there to open Turtle Rock.
Well, again, we're seeing both runners doing this time. At the beginning of the seed, it was only Chex doing this, trying to make sure to get that one extra item before going to a place where you might do a slightly inefficient route. So Chex doing that with Eastern, getting that mirror so that he could do a more efficient Death Mountain check. Whereas JTB, didn't do that in that case. But in this case, they both went up to Dark Death Mountain before coming here because they couldn't check the magic bat. And sure enough, they got the powder, and then that had the item they need. So they're both going to be able to pick up that Quake medallion. And did JTB? Yeah, he did. Sorry, don't mind me. Everything's fine. Chex is going to Meyer. Yeah.
So Chex is hoping to find Ice Rod in here. He's gonna do a full clear Mire just to hope that Ice Rod's in here, so he doesn't have to full clear Turtle Rock. That being said, so he doesn't have to make a second trip up there. But if Ice Rod is in here, we're talking go mode in an hour and 20 minutes.
Of course, there's also the possibility of the dark timelines. Here's one for you. Flippers are in here. Swamp Palace has the Ice Rod. It's on the left side.
I'm thinking of nice things.
Oh, okay, so like pedestal Ice Rod. Got it. I mean, we know that's impossible, but...
I think we're flipping roles here. I was the trolly one at first, and now you're doing.
There must always be one.
Okay, Highlander.
Alright, JTB is carrying his purple chest. He's actually walking it to the south. You can actually flute this down to 7, but he's gonna... he hasn't checked Bombo's tablet yet, I believe, so he's gonna go ahead and loop that in with this. So unfortunately, that means he can't flute. So that's gonna make this slightly slower. And it will also depend on whether he goes to check the Pyramid Fairy, which turned out to be absolutely nothing. And you don't have flippers, so unfortunately you can't do that.
Yeah, easily forgettable, and we'll see. I don't think Chex has found a single item yet in here, and Mire being one of the most annoying dungeons because it only has 2 items, and it's one of the most time-consuming dungeons out there.
Well, what Chex does find is a small key in the first of these fire-locked chests, and as a savvy rando player, he probably knows that that means that the big key has to be in the other one. That's how that works, just due to the way the doors are arranged in this dungeon. So, as a result, he knows he has to come this way to get the big key, so he might as well get it out of the way. And this will actually let him do a slightly more efficient clear of the remaining chests in the dungeon, too.
You know, I never thought about thinking key logic in Mire, so that's definitely something nice to know and think of future.
I think one of my favorite things is in interviews after runs, just asking runners about like different, efficient plays they made, and having them like basically teach you like, oh yeah, no, like if you find this small key here, then the other thing has to be big key. Like, oh, I didn't know that. I like the same thing. I learned at one point. I learned something about Skullwood's key logic from Blaine just in a post-race interview. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Thank you. You taught me something.
Yeah, there's always room to learn something. Unless you're like all-knowing Andy and just know this back your hands. Learning something every day is very nice.
Well, unfortunately, there's just a map in the center room chest for Chex, so he's still looking for either of the 2 non-dungeon items in Mire. And he's got 2 chests remaining before he has to go fight the boss, and JTB is falling directly into Mire. Did not bother with Pyramid Fairies. So that's a really nice time save that he's gotten to realize so far. Didn't bother with Catfish either.
And looks like Vitreous is going to have an item. He's going to make his way in the back. I wonder if we're going to see some of the new strats with the Fire Rod down below. I don't know if either of these runners have tried it yet, but nice to see.
Yeah, it did appear that he set up for the spooky action glitch, as it's called, on his way into the dungeon. The way we could tell was that when he fluted to 6, he walked below the black block to pick it up, and then he entered the portal. So that actually sets up the duck to leave the screen at a certain height, and don't ask why that matters. It just does. It's magic. That's why it's called spooky.
You know, I didn't realize that was a prerequisite, and he is setting it up here.
There it is. I believe I saw the clip go off. And now you see he actually hit the switch in that previous room. Now he's going to hit the switch here by just shooting the fire rod at nothing. This is a very, very good demonstration of this glitch. And here again, there you go.
Oh my god, I didn't even realize you could do it in that room.
Yeah, this is the most optimal setup I believe they came up with for no major glitches. So that saves the greatest amount of time. I think it's total like 10 seconds or something. I may have misquoted that, so don't necessarily believe me on that. Oh, and great use of the spins on here. Very, very well executed. He's going to fire a couple more arrows here to finish off those eyes, and that is a textbook NMG Vitreous fight.
Beautiful Mire dungeon from Chex. Excellent use of all the knowledge.
He gets rewarded with 1 rupee. Thanks, game.
Oh, that's just nasty. Nothing in Mire. So now the question is, does he go up to T-Rock and hope that Ice Rod's there, or do a couple of overworld chests that are left to him?
Well, what is left to him? I think it's actually just Eastern is the only thing left to him because he's done like all the rest of the overworld.
That's very true. You know, it could be find the flippers here to maybe get the mushroom. Who knows what chain this could be going on?
Oh god, that's a dark path to potentially have to tread. But yeah, Chex is making the only play he really can. You cannot go to Eastern Palace and hope that it's the green pendant in this case. You gotta just go to Turtle Rock. It has 5 non-dungeon items in it, plus Mimic Cave for a total of 6 locations to check before you get to the boss. So very, very good chance of the Ice Rod being in there in this seed. But boy, as you head up here, you're nervous as heck.
Yeah, you gotta hope that you do not have to leave Turtle Rock to go somewhere else, and just hope that Ice Rod's here, because that would just ruin the night, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed. And the thing for Chex is that JTB hasn't had even if JTB thought he were behind because of, I mean, really, why would he? Aside from, there were like 2 plays. There was the Eastern Palace versus Death Mountain thing at the beginning, and then there were a couple falls to Moldorm. So if he thought he were behind based on those things, even then, he has had no chance in this seed, given the way the progression worked, to make any sort of like gamble play. The correct thing to do was just always obvious.
Yeah, it was pretty much a very linear seed, even leading you to Fake Flipper to Ice Palace. It's like almost told you to do so, knowing that the flippers were not necessary, and that's what was open to you at that time. So it was pretty linear, and with there's the flippers.
Of course, dude. That's not going to deter him. He's going to go on. He's not at all ever going to think about, maybe I should dip out for Swamp.
So logically, the seed wanted you to double dip T-Rock.
Yep. Well, no, not even. It just wanted you to come in here before Ice. Unless the Ice Rod ends up being in Swamp, in which case, you know, ugh, back it up. Let's all go home at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which Chex opts to mirror from that room back to the entrance instead of walking out of the room. It's slightly slower to mirror, but it's also easier than dealing with the rollers. But he's not leaving. He was just busting out the mirror to do that. As JTB busting out the same exact spin strats for the NMG style Vitreous fight here. And this is called the, I believe, the WQ strats. Particular ways of using these spins, but doesn't quite get the 0 cycle. He's still doing okay here. Check's getting a little bit beat up by Pokey, but he advances in the next fun room that everyone loves.
Oh god, the worst room in the game, personally. Especially, they don't have red mail, so I think these chain chomps do 6 hearts of damage with blue?
No, it's not that bad. I think it was 3, which is still just ludicrous.
I think it's the same hearts. It's the same damage that the Lionels do, and I think 1 less than Ganon.
I hate chain chomps. All right, so JTB, unfortunately, right now before he goes to Turtle Rock looking for the Ice Rod, he is going to make this Pyramid Fairy play. So this will cost him that time that he potentially had to save. But, you know, really, as it is for the entire, like, kind of last half of the seed, he's really just been hoping for Chex to make some mistakes of some sort that he could capitalize, or go to the wrong place, or waste some time on Eastern or something like that. And Chex has just not done that. So as a result, JTB is still just following in his footsteps, and he really needs to hope now, pretty much, for the Ice Rod to be either in Eastern Palace or Swamp, and he guesses the right one and Chex doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely, and just unfortunately for I mean, I can't fault JTB for this, because I'd probably make the same decision myself. I have this available to me instead of taking the gamble and going all the way up to Turtle Rock and it not being there and being on Fairy. You got to make this play at this moment.
Yeah, and it's tough. Like, he doesn't obviously have any knowledge of what the state of the race is, so he's just gonna do the best he can, and we'll see what happens. Chex heading into Mimic Cave. He's gonna bust out his hammer so he can break that wall and also break some Mimic faces. And what do we have here? Half magic. That's really nice. But it's not an Ice Rod.
It's not the Ice Rod, but having half magic definitely is the other safety I like to have. I like to have half magic and powder, but that's just in a perfect situation, a perfect world.
And the big chest, actually Chex could have opted to check the big chest first to just see if he could skip having to do Mimic Cave, but in either case it just had a heart container. And now both runners are gonna be on a ludicrous number of hearts. Chex rocking 17, and Blue Mail on top of that. Plus, I believe he still has both of his potions left, so he's loaded for bear here. Or pig, I guess.
And with that mirror shield in hand, he's gonna make quick work of Laser Bridge, even if he knows, and I'm sure he knows, Laser Skip. It just makes it easier to go circumvent those beams.
Dude, I'm pretty sure it was actually exactly an hour ago when I said, in an hour, Chex is really gonna like this mirror shield. And here it is. He's gonna head on the Laser Bridge, and he will just walk directly into those lasers. And they will just harmlessly take off of his shield. He gets a Bombos medallion. And a key. And 10 arrows, and this is it. This is the last chance.
Oh, here we go.
Oh
my god, here we go. Oh my god, we got the flippers. So Swamp.
Okay, so I really like this play he's doing right here. Or actually, he might not be trying to make anything of this. He might have been, I was thinking he might have been trying to save his mirror portal, but he probably realized there's nothing in the light world that can actually have the Ice Rod, so he wouldn't be able to save it even if he wanted to. So he is going into Swamp. This kind of is like almost the only play. It has so many possible items in it. Eastern Palace has the boss and the green pendant, and that's all.
Oh my god, but if he full clears Swamp and Ice Rod is over there, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, this is the opportunity JTB really needed. If it turns out to be on Armos, then Chex is going to spend a whole bunch of time in Swamp, and even just getting into the dungeon is slow. But first, JTB has to do the entirety of Turtle Rock, and that is not fast either.
No, it's not. But nonetheless, personally, I know a lot of runners like feign doing Swamp because of how long left side can do, but in all honesty, it's the densest location in the game for dungeons. If I have the items, I tend to dip it early just because I know I can get a lot of items in that dungeon, but that could be the reason why I'm not in brackets, so...
That's how I feel when watching these. Could be the reason I'm eliminated is I make bad decisions. But Chex is gonna check this. Oh my god! At an hour 29 and 7 seconds, Chexhumans in go mode. There's the ice rod.
Oh, that's got to be the quickest Swamp Palace ever. So, make his way back. It's going to have to go through the entire dungeon of Turtle Rock once again to get to Trinex. But we finally can make our way to Ganon. Still going to make a respectable time. Probably going to be, I'm going to say, in the 140s.
Yeah, for sure. And JTB has an opportunity here, but it seems like he would have already done it if he were going to, but he has an opportunity to maybe just nope out of the dungeon immediately and say, no, I'm going to go do Swamp since I got those flippers. But since he's continuing into the roller room, it seems unlikely he'll actually do that. Yeah, he busted out the mirror and is continuing in, so he will do basically the same plays that Chex did. So now it's an even more uphill climb. And we did get a point raised by chat, which was a very good one, that there was one way Chexhuman could have preserved his portal if he wanted to do so. And that was that if he'd gone to Eastern, finished that dungeon, that wouldn't have required entering the Dark World, so he could have had his portal back. But the Ice Rod wasn't there, so as it turns out, in this seed, there was no way to save it.
Yeah, no less than. Oh, JTB taking a hit by a Chain Chomp.
Whew. Oh. He dodged one of them, but then the other one got a little nip in as he was trying to make his way out of the room. Well, now we get to watch some good old-fashioned Turtle Rock on both sides, but of course, Chex is going to be a lot quicker, as he will not need to do any of these chest checks. JTB's got to head to the left side and kill off this Pokey, get a small key, while Chex has already done that, so he will just head directly into Pokeys 2.
And while we're seeing the same plays by the runners here, they did such an amazing job tonight entertaining you guys. They put on one hell of a race. So please, when you get a chance, give the guys a follow. That's the best way to validate each of their accomplishments in this run and giving us an amazing watch here.
Looks like the bot might be rebelling on us regarding giving the info on the two runners, but you see there. Well, actually, I think JTV's screen name slightly differs from what we're showing on screen, but it's fine. We'll figure it out. We'll get you guys the info needed to follow both of them because they're awesome. Also, of course, we'll give, as always, a thanks to our tracker, Yoinker's wife, for making sure that we've got the information down below to follow what each runner has acquired, which in this particular seed is literally the identical set of items, with the only exception being JTB has not yet acquired the Bombos medallion on Lacy Bridge, and he also has not yet headed to Swamp to pick up that Ice Rod.
Yep, and Chexhuman is finally on his way towards Trinex. He's going to get through here really quickly, utilizing that Cane of Samaria block very nicely there, and we'll see his Trinex fight as we go on. But with half magic, blue mail, tempered sword, we'll make quick work of Trinex here.
We'll see how he opts to approach this. Looks like he's going behind the boss, trying to set up the slightly quicker setup here. Didn't quite work out totally, but he is still going to be able to get rid of the Firehead quickly, but unfortunately, he's going to get a little bit of ice on the ground. He does have those potions left, and boy, it looks like he's going to need them. And he's also just going to spam that fire. Oh, boy, okay. Check seed.
He's not going to even opt to use it right here. He's just saying, oh, a heart and a half? I got this.
He's positioning, yeah, he's positioning a little safely here, and he busts out the potion and says, no, I don't want to die here. I don't want to lose this race because of the death here, so takes it a little more safely, gets that last slash in, and there you go. He doesn't need the health, but boy, the safety just makes you feel a lot easier here.
Yeah, and Trinex can hug you pretty effectively, and just the smallest, if you just hit the back end of that tail, it hurts.
Yeah, it's not a fun time. All right, well, JTB reaching Laser Bridge, and he doesn't have that mirror shield, so what you're seeing from him instead is walking laser skips, executed really nicely here. There's also the possibility to do these with dashing. Oh, hey, minigame. Yeah, go, do the thing.
Yes, there's 22 locations that the big key can be. Get your chat, get your numbers in there quickly because we'll stop once he gets in the dungeon. But if you subscribe to any of the Speed Gaming channels or donate 250 bits in this dungeon, you can be put on a leaderboard if you get it right quickly because it's in like literally 2 seconds.
Yeah, except you can't because the bot's not working tonight, but that's okay. You'll earn our undying love and affection. And JTB is heading directly to Swamp, so he will get his Ice Rod very shortly, as Chexhuman is entering the dungeon. We're going to see what's in these first two chests. It's a red rupee and a small key, and he will go left instead of continuing right. This is a fairly standard play, although it is increasingly common these days to see the right side play if people get that initial small key.
But he did the right choice because it is on the torch.
Well, after all that, this makes this basically makes it that JTB needs a miracle series of deaths by Chexhuman, basically, that we just based on the way we've seen Chex play, we can't reasonably expect. So Chex has got the he's got the absolute lead here. He's got the reins in his hand, and he just needs to get to the finish line.
But that means, barring one of the back-end chats, where we are going to see Silverless Ganon tonight.
That's true, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him check one or two of those, as JTB gets his go mode 1 hour 36 minutes and 16 seconds. I wouldn't be surprised to see him check a couple, but I would be surprised to see him check like all of them. Maybe, I don't know. He might only even check the one after Moldorm, or he might not bother with any. Who knows?
I mean, if you're confident with NMJ strats and you don't need to worry about silvers, which I'm sure both these runners are fully capable of doing, you might not even worry about it.
The Stelphos just dodged exactly out of the way of the arrow. That was pretty good. But here we go with the gauntlet for Chex. Already done with one room and trying to make use of those boots, the sword from the dash, trying to make use of his arrows. Doing a pretty okay job. These aren't like, perfect rooms, but he's doing a very solid job of not letting them get away from him, which is really the important thing. And that Temperate Sword makes all of these Zazacs very easy to deal with.
Yeah, and that Stalfos room could really be a trolley room. They just jump away from you, do different movements, just totally random, and one of the worst rooms in the gauntlet, in my opinion.
Now, he's actually busting out spins for Landmines too. He wanted to get a spin on one of them instead of a fire rod shot, but it did work out, but didn't quite save him from too many extra shots. But after 2 cycles, they're all gone. With silvers, you can do it like perfectly in 1 cycle, but alas, not having that advantage here. Fire rod, if you get lucky with the jumps, you can also do it in 1 cycle, but I think his positions were a little bit suboptimal for that.
And into the Wizrobe's room. That strat is not the easiest to pull off, but once you can get the timing on it, it's very nice. And just to climb, go through. Personally, I still have not timed it out myself.
It's a really fun strat to do. It just feels good to pull it off, and also, of course, is very useful in no major glitches. And it's very cool to see the cane used as an offensive weapon in that regard. But here, Chex is just working his way up the tower very quickly. Of course, helped a little bit by that good big key placement, but also his execution here has been on point. Didn't even need to stop to pick up that magic refill, as he had enough magic to go. And he is skipping these 2 chests here. And he is turning back to pick up these 2 chests here because he needed a key. So he needs to get those Helmosaurs killed so that he can collect the small key from them.
Yeah, nice placement, using the bombs to hopefully kill the Helmosaurs, but if you found a key in one of those chests, you didn't have to worry about it. So I actually like that strat, and I might employ that myself later on.
Another chest check. It's just bombs. So he is kind of hoping for, maybe he'll get silvers. It'll speed up the final boss fight by, I think it's around 40 seconds. So it's a pretty good time save if you just get it from one of these chests. But no luck so far. And Moldorm 2, kind of bodying him a little bit, but there he goes. Well, that's that for chests, and Chex will not be having the silver arrows, but he does check the fan favorite meme chest, so there you go.
Getting trolled in this room here. Very, very underrated room. That room can be quite pain, especially with those, I forget what boing things. What the hell are they called? It's too late, people.
Bumpers, pinball thingy, mabobbers. Aghanim 2, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he got a double there on the first try. Get the single there, I'm pretty sure, because I think it nullified.
Yeah, a couple blue balls there kind of upsetting him. JTB pulling off the Trinex fight very well. A little bit cleaner than Chex, but unfortunately is not helping him quite yet. Again, unless Chex has some very serious problems. But he does dispatch the boss, and he'll be making his way to Ganon's tower next, as Chex is going to enter the Ganon fight. And this is where you start feeling like, oh man, I could be in it. I'm in Ganon's tower. My opponent hasn't got done yet.
Yeah, this is where the nerves definitely start going. But Chexhuman heading into the Ganon fight with 17 hearts, and personally, having that one heart depleted, I think is not a detriment at all, because having sword beams in here can definitely hurt you instead of help you if you do not know the positioning and you accidentally use a sword beam instead of a slash.
Man, this is some very nice execution here by Chex on Ganon. Look at the dodges on the fire bats. He takes out the first two phases in one cycle each. Very well done by him with the tempered sword. That is definitely possible, and many runners are capable, but boy, it still looks very impressive when pulled off. So he is already on to phase 3 and making a very convincing statement on this fight.
All right, getting ready to head into phase 4. Now this is going to be 12 spins here, realizing he does not have the silvers.
Yeah, that can happen. You just kind of get autopilot a little bit, but now we're going to see some silverless Ganon. Ooh, and JTB is continuing to the right, unfortunately, so he's going to get held up a little bit. The Chex does opt to use the lamp here, so it'll just it makes this a little bit slower because he can't get triples using the lamp, but he's still able to get, well, that one actually was a really good position. He might be able to get one here.
Yep, I think that's 8.
JTB is rewarded with a gold sword for his right side play, and a bunch more rupees, and a bottle with a fairy in it. But Chexhuman, just a couple more spins here. I think that this
one more, I think it's gonna do it.
it.
And
there it
is. Ooh, what a play, and JTB is just about to get his big key and make his way up, but Chexhuman is about to cross the bridge and finish with an SRTV time of 1 hour, 43 minutes, and 16 seconds. Get your GGs in chat. What a race.
Congratulations to Chex. He takes game 3 in pretty convincing fashion, as just from start to finish with very slightly better routing play. That Eastern versus Death Mountain thing, he jumped out to the lead and he just never looked back. The only other major difference was just JTB going to Skull second after going to Deepstown first, but even that didn't make a huge difference. Just overall, that one play after that point, JTB was always behind, and Chex managed to keep that lead going the entire time.
Yeah, and it's really it. That's minor decisions to change the change in routing is really what put JTB behind. Because otherwise, you can't fault JT at all. He played an excellent round here in this run. Though I was too excited to see what what Ganon said the silvers were. I'm guessing just the way what was left, it had to be in the tower on the left-hand side.
Probably. Yeah, it sounds from chat like it was GT silvers. I'm trying to pull up the info on who the next opponent is. Okay. Wow, this the winner of this match, which is Chexhuman, will advance to face the winner of Bentizi versus Gem, which is that's gonna be a doozy.
Oh my god.
And we're seeing some lovely fire rod strats from JTB on the land molars, but unfortunately an uncooperative hop from one of them. So and another one. So he's actually gonna end up with like a 3-cycle, despite having oh my gosh, these land molars, dude.
Yeah, with Gold Sword, you almost want to just do the couple slashes, 2 hits per Lammo, but opts use the fire rod to do both, and this can quickly make his way through.
We are, of course, checking to see if Chexhuman wants to join for a quick interview. JTB is done with his second Wizrobes room, and another well-executed room for him. His GT's been pretty good. His gauntlet was clean. You know, his downstairs was clean, other than, of course, he lost a little time only because he went further right, and that didn't cost him too much time, so it wasn't, you know, massive or anything. But otherwise, he's doing well here in GT, and he's just, you know, kind of chugging on up the tower and just trying to finish it out. You know, it's his last race in the tournament, so he's gonna make sure to go out on as strong of a note as he can.
Absolutely, you do it for the fun. And most of us are in doing this, commentating or running just for the fun of the game. So
yeah, I mean, we all get to basically, you know, he's been here. He's played his 7 matches in Swiss. He's played 3 total games here in this bracket against a really, really tough opponent. And so he absolutely deserves to get to finish this out in the manner of his choosing, and you know, just show off like, hey, like this is my level of skill, like this is what I've been capable of, and even though I didn't win here today, you know, this is the kind of player I am. Oh, hey there. It looks like we can be joined by Chexhuman now, so let's go ahead and grab him in here. Chexhuman, congratulations on your victory today and in this match. Moving on to the top 64.
Thank you, GG.
I mean, just tell us what your thoughts were about the seed and about your performance.
Light World was pretty crazy. I feel like I got kind of lucky there, going into Eastern, getting the mirror, and then going into Hera and getting only 1 item. It's kind of a strange thing, but it seemed to make sense at the time. And from there on, it felt a little bit linear. And of course, the flippers and the Turtle Rock told me what to do, but no. Got to full clear Turtle Rock.
exactly, we were like hoping for not the trolliest location, and JTB has bombed the validation to the last chest, has used the powder on the last chest, had fall to Moldorm, had to fight him twice, having the worst luck in that room.
Oh man.
But honestly, your Eastern play early was what put you ahead the whole time, because literally JTB has followed you ever since. Each because I mean, it pretty much was a linear lead, even setting you to fake flipper to Ice Palace. everything was pretty much leading you in that direction. So
Yeah, the JTB fake flipper. Oh yeah, he must have, because I saw the last part of this race. Yeah.
Yeah, he did as well. Yeah, I mean, you guys basically did all the same plays. You had all the same thoughts about like where things were likely to be. You went to pot at the same time, except you were ahead doing that, but like at the same points in your routing. You know, that Eastern play was a big one, but then also like the way the Hera play worked out for you. I kind of wanted to ask, like, when you went in, you got one item, you didn't have the sword or hammer yet. So what was your thinking about how to incorporate Hera? Like when you got the sword in Paradox Cave, did you at all consider going back immediately, or you know, kind of how did you view that play?
Yeah, I felt kind of dumb because I felt like there's probably a sword soon on Death Mountain, but I didn't really go the right way. I should have just used the hook shot, done East Death Mountain, then gone to Hera and cleared it. But no. So I waited till after Mitz until going back to Hera. That just seemed to work out for me.
well, book on the ledge over there is definitely was like, oh yeah, let me grab that and then go to Hera afterwards. So I mean, can't blame you for what you did. You know, it definitely. But rounding it in, I figured that you figured since you have to go do it anyway, you might as well leave it to the end and maybe be the last crystal. But
Yeah, I've never ever been able to do that. One of these days, I'll have a go mode Hera.
The coveted go mode Tower of Hera.
Yeah.
Oh man, JTB working on his Ganon fight. You know, I'm trying to think of things to discuss with you as far as like the routing considerations, but like, man, it kind of felt, to me at least, it kind of felt like a very linear-ish kind of seed, like in that it wasn't super unclear where to go at any particular point. Did you kind of feel the same way? Like, did the correct route just kind of jump out at you and seem obvious, or?
Yeah, I'm I'm easily confused. So this one I was able to follow. I was really questioning the Ice Palace play, but I like Ice Palace and visiting all of its rooms. I don't know.
That might be the first time I've ever heard an interviewee say that.
yeah, but you know, like I said, it felt like the seed wanted you to go there. You know, not knowing. You know, it just was the thing. It felt like, you know what, I have to fake flipper to Ice Palace. It was like you had all the items, and it was the most logical spot to go to. So
JTB is putting on a little bit of a show as he wraps up here, dancing around the Triforce a little bit, and there he goes, crossing the threshold. So he finishes up his race and the tournament with an SRTV time of 1 hour 52 and 20 seconds. So GG to him. It's a shame that he won't get to continue on because he's played really well in this tournament and showed us some really cool stuff. But we also, on the other side, have someone who's also played really well and shown us some other incredible stuff. So really, as far as this race goes, the viewers, we're all the winners.
That's great to hear. Thanks for commentating, of course.
We'll, of course, find out if JTB is interested in joining us. Of course, you know, sometimes the losing runner does not necessarily want to hop in, but that is totally okay if the case. But of course, we always want to extend the opportunity. So we'll see what JTB says. And in the meantime, Chex, you know, going forward, you have your next opponent is going to either be Bentizi or Gem. Tell us how you're feeling about that prospect.
Good luck with that match, Chex.
GG. Yeah, that'll be something. But yeah, I like those guys. They'll probably win.
But anyway,
Well,
JTB is here. GG, by the way, great run.
Thanks. Glad it's over, to be honest.
get a bit of the rando overload lately?
Yeah, and then with summer games done quick in a week and a half, and not really practicing my run at all, just playing Zelda. It's kind of nice to now not have this tournament hanging over me.
Oh, what
I'm
are
gonna
you running?
pretend I didn't hear that part.
Oh, it's with summer games done quick coming up next week. Now
No,
I
no,
can
no,
just
I mean,
literally. Oh,
I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear the part about you not practicing.
hey, no, I'm still good. Okay, I have a really good estimate, and even if I didn't play this until until Sunday, I would still put on an amazing run. So it just feels nice to not have to delegate my time between these two games and just focus entirely on that.
Well, feel free to let everyone know what you are running and when. That's certainly we should all get to check that out.
Hey everyone, I'm JTB and I'm running Resident Evil 4 at Summer Games Done Quick. I believe it's at like 8 p.m. Central Time on the first day, so if you're interested in that at all, it'd be cool to have some of you watching that.
Awesome.
Very good. I'll definitely check that out if I am not at work. You know, I tend to be at work all the time and miss out on everything. But that being said, way to go, JTB. Was great watching you. I have to say, your play decide. Honestly, the one thing that put you behind is leaving Sahasrah's hut and going right to Death Mountain.
Yeah, I did. I was watching the restream and I heard that was kind of like the dividing point so early into the seed too. But that's kind of something I always do, so I can't really blame myself for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty reasonable play. After you did go back to Eastern and then you found the mirror, and then of course that led to Hera to get the boots and so on. Like, what was your thinking at that point? You also took a couple falls to Moldorm. Like, did you manage to stay pretty even keel about that, or did that kind of get you possibly a little tilted?
No, I was actually pretty calm throughout that. I mean, it was disappointing, obviously, to take those falls, but it wasn't like a death or something sending me to the back of the entire dungeon. So yeah, it really wasn't too bad. It's unfortunate it happened, but Trolldorm, as they call it.
Do you generally find yourself, like, during races, do you generally find yourself able to keep like a straight head regardless of what's going on? Like, just play at the same, tempo and not change too much?
For the most part, I've gotten tilted maybe like once or twice during an actual tournament race, and that's with just a lot of really bad things happening, like multiple deaths and items not being in locations I'm expecting them to be. But for something like this, it's not. It's just brush it off my shoulder.
Nice. That is like a really important quality to have for sure. So, well done keeping your head like that and just not losing it because I know I've done that before. I fell in Tower of Hera. Boy, I must be behind by like 8 years or whatever.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there was one time when I think it was my second race of the Swiss stages, and I tried to do Darkmire, and I was in that first room for like 5 minutes. I used 4 potions. It was like, I'm
that
like,
can
yeah,
do it.
and that lost me the race.
Yeah, that can you think you know it going into that room, and then you get hit by one of the Medusas and your movement's all over the place and you're like, what the heck do I do now?
Yeah, I had to dip out and get the lamp, which was in ice, as a pendant, of course.
Oh,
of course.
Yeah, we all know that feeling. Fortunately, neither of you guys needed the flippers to actually go do ice. That was a really nice thing for you both to circumvent. But JTB, I guess going forward, we kind of already know what's coming up for you in the immediate future because you have that run at SGDQ. But beyond that, what'll you be doing speed wise or just gaming wise after this getting knocked out here?
Well, I definitely want to do a lot more commentary now that I'm not having to worry about doing 2 to 3 matches a week or just practicing in general. Honestly, doing commentary is one of my favorite parts of this tournament in general. When I'm at home, at least, when I'm not in a hotel room on my famous $5 mic. But yeah, doing that, and then I really want to actually get a lot better at no major glitches. I've only done 1 run so far, so I want to kind of push myself on that. And then, yeah, more Resident Evil 4, and it's kind of what's going on for me right now.
Well, Chex, I'm going to throw a similar question to you, except, of course, your tournament life continues. You have to keep playing. You're not free. So how are you going to approach your randomizer play going forward for that match against either Bentizi or Gem, both of whom are very formidable opponents? Uh-oh. Chex AFK'd. No.
Yeah, he put his mic on. That's okay.
Oh, there
Sorry.
he
Oh,
is.
he's there. He's there. Yes.
I'll probably practice a few rooms that I could get better at. And I don't know. I'll play a little bit of standard, but I'm really into entrance shuffle and glitched categories, as well as glitched categories of the vanilla game too. So I'll be playing a lot of Zelda, basically.
Yeah,
I mean, that's one way to do it.
We did notice that actually came up a couple times, and like, how have you found that's helped you? Like, just having that experience from not just like the glitch categories of the normal game, but also like the other modes of randomizer. Like, does key sanity or does like overworld glitches? Does that stuff help you when you're doing standard?
I can't think of an example of how it would help me at the moment. Although, I don't know. No, I can't really think of an example. Minor glitches are fun. Major glitches are fun. They're just not loud.
Very well said. And speaking of minor glitches, I do have to commend you on perfect execution of the new fire rod strats in Mire. Very well placed. I didn't even know about the third one in the last room, which I was actually, wow, I didn't know about that one. That was nice.
Oh yeah, there's a variation on it too I want to get better at as well. The variation where you void the block, and you can still get past the middle room, and maybe even the third room, but I'm not sure.
Would that be? Do you need that like if you accidentally do something else, like somewhere in Mire, or?
Yes. If you don't press A or you use powder or boomerang or something, it messes up the
powder.
the
Interesting.
thing,
Okay.
the RAM, whatever.
Yeah, the weird stuff that is beyond the scope of our commentary to explain.
Yes. But anyway, as you know, that being said, is there anything else you'd like to add before we start wrapping up here?
No, just congrats to Chex on a very difficult match. I really hope that you do win against one of Ben and Jim and just get really far.
Thank you. We shall see.
Do your best, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I think that's going to do it for us for tonight. That was a great way to cap off the evening, a great Game 3 between two very skilled runners. Again, make sure to give these runners a follow. Hopefully someone will figure out how to resurrect the bot so that we can throw the links in there. So thank you to both of them for racing today. Thank you as well to Yoinker's wife for doing the tracking for us tonight, helping us out with making sure that we understand what is going on. And Azrael, thanks for being here tonight. It was a pleasure to commentate with you.
Same to you, Viljan. I had such a blast tonight. Great way to, like I said, start our weekend earlier. But also, if you like what you're doing, please give Speed Gaming a follow. You got Speed Gaming 1 through 6, and now Link to the Past Randomizer 1 through 5. We just added the 5th channel there, so please give them a follow if you like to see more action. And if you do like what you're doing, our next race is at 8 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow morning between Windu and Genja 23, which should be a good race on this channel right here, Speed Gaming 2. So please, if you want more, tune in at 8 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, don't worry. We're not about to run out of randomizer action anytime soon. But yeah, in the meantime, go to bed. Or if you're in Europe, go to bed.
It's the weekend.
Indeed. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good thing, day, night, whatever.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your time.